Hey guys, Augiesaint here and welcome to the channel. Hope you guys are having a fantastic day. And in this video I just want to share with you guys my quick updated casting reflux build. I'm not going to go so in depth to it, I'm just going to cover a bunch of things that I am doing now, as I have a full in-depth video on my channel for you guys to go check out, with rotations and like min-maxing stuff and testing stuff and all kinds of things on that video. So this is just as a request from a comment on a previous video actually, to give us an updated build of what I'm actually doing right now in my Sorc. I'm going to touch on a couple of things and share it with you guys. So without further ado, let's hop into the build now, shall we? So let's bring it on up. What have we got? Let's have a look at our engravings first of all. So these four at the top here, my engravings haven't changed at all. Grudge, Reflux, Hitmaster, All Out Attack. This is for casting reflux, crit casting reflux by the way. You want to use those four as your mandatory. Don't change them, you want those four every time. And then the fifth one, there's a little bit of a... there's a couple options here. Precise Dagger, a Keen Blunt Weapon, Adrenaline, Cursed Doll. There is even an argument where Mass Increase could be good there. Not as good, definitely more budget option, but it is a possibility. But this is what I tend to run after all the testing I've done, and if you go watch that video I told you guys about, I tested Precise Dagger and Keen Blunt. Keen Blunt does have a higher ceiling obviously because of the crit damage it gives you, but you have like diminishing returns on really high crit damage, so again, you stack crit damage on the tripods and everything, it kinda isn't as valuable after a certain point, if you know what I mean. There's a lot of number crunching to really get into that, but with Precise Dagger I found way more consistent than Keen Blunt Weapon. But if you do run with crit synergies like a Gunslinger or whatever crit synergy you have in a group and you have like a static, I would probably say Keen Blunt Weapon will give you more damage overall, because then obviously you have higher crit on its own. But obviously I pug a lot. I only have my two friends that we usually just end up pugging raids together with, and none of us play a crit synergy, so Precise Dagger works really well for me, as it makes my damages much more consistent. As if you're not critting on crit reflux, you're losing an insane amount of damage. For example, my meteors crit for over 30-35 million depending on buffs, even 40 something, 42 million. I've seen a big one as well depending on support buffs. When they don't crit, 3 to 6 million tops, so that is a massive difference if you look at it. So when you're not critting on crit reflux, it really hurts you a lot, especially the casting one, because it's not being such a piano like fast paced, just throw out shit all the time. But it's more focusing on the big damage, also quite rapidly. But yeah, if you're not critting, you're not enjoying the game, you're not doing damage, and you want to crit. The Precise Dagger is my choice. Obviously it was a budget at the time, but then I've grown to love it even more, and I've done quite a lot of testing on it, and Precise Dagger is what I choose. Adrenaline, if I was going to redo my build, I would probably put Adrenaline in there as another one, because it's really easy to maintain with your rotation and how quick everything is. Gives you crit and attack power. But the reason I don't change to Adrenaline right now is because redoing my whole 5x3 just for adding that is really not worth it for me at this point. I do however plan on changing it once we get Ancient Accessories. Then I will see what I can do with my build and change it around, and then I'll most likely put in Adrenaline somewhere. Maybe drop Precise Dagger completely, or maybe actually pick up Keen Blunt and level 1 Adrenaline, with 5x3 plus 1 being a thing then. I think you still need a 9/7 stone, I'm not sure. Or maybe not even a 9/7, but we'll have to see how that all goes with Ancient Accessories. But for now, this is really consistent, and it's pretty cheap to build as well. Keen Blunt obviously being a higher ceiling option, Adrenaline being pretty good as well. So those are your options for engravings. Alright, let's have a look at gems. So you want to have damage and cooldown on all your main skills, being Rhyme Arrow, Punishing Strike, Explosion, and Doomsday. Cooldown damage on all of those. And then Frostgall and ESO Reaction, you want to at least have damage gems on both of these. And then your last gem is up for debate on cooldown for Frostgall or Esoteric Reaction. Whichever gem you end up rolling first, I would say they're both pretty similar in value, as they both do crazy amounts of damage, ESO and Frostgall. I would much rather that on rather than a Blaze gem. I see a lot of people using a Blaze gem, and to me that's just lost damage there. I haven't actually gone and tested it over time and stuff in Trixion or whatever. But if you look at it just in the skill tree, so where is our skill tree? Let's have a look. Blaze does 208,000 damage with the 41,000 over 5 seconds. So take 250,000 damage just to make it easier to compute. And then Frostgall does 1 million damage. You see there? It has 7 numbers. That's a lot of numbers compared to the Blaze's 6. And then Esoteric actually does 920,000, almost a million as well. So the cooldown would have to be like 5 times longer for the Blaze to be stronger, as obviously the cooldown is not. It's only doubled. Cooldown is 24 seconds, whereas the Blaze is 10 seconds. So it's doubled and a little bit but the damage is 5 times higher. So I'll let you guys decide on that last gem, but that's why I like ESO and Frostcall over Blaze for the damage gem. So those are our gems. And then while we're at, we might as well have a look at our skills too. So this is the skill distribution that I go with skill points. Obviously this one over here, Augiesaint Touch, is your counter slot. You have to put a counter in there when you need it. I'm not one of those sorcs that don't run a counter when I need it. I definitely use a counter when I need it. Yeah, my winky face. I mean, what? So in like Brawl Gate 5, Brawl Gate 1, there's actually a lot of gates. Brawl Gate 6, when you need counters, I would definitely switch to counter. But when you're running easy stuff and farm content, I like to use my shield for comfiness, to be lazy and absorb mechanics. But mainly for the swift footwork, to get the movement speed, because I love zooming around, because that does stack then with yearning as well, and we don't have much swiftness. I mean, we do have crit, and then swiftness is our last off stat. But I like Augiesaint's Touch for comfort and movement. But you can really put whatever you want in that slot. If you want more damage, which obviously you can get with Seraphic Hail, Reverse Gravity, or Inferno, all three of those really good options. Or you could even go for Lightning Vortex, but I don't know why you would, because it's less damage. It does apply your synergy, but I'd rather say there is your counter slot and all damage and comfort. So do whatever you want with that slot. And then moving on back to Blaze, we use Blaze with damage amp and flame expansion. You could use charge flame as well, just for one extra charge. I like the flame expansion because it like shoots out and then spreads out even on a much larger area. So when the boss actually jumps around and moves around, it still hits him and it ticks. So you pretty much got full uptime on this all the time. But it's really close between them, whichever one you want to use. And then Frostcall, we use Enlightenment because there's nothing better really. Unstable Rule and Final Strike. Final Strike being the most important one there, obviously, since we are a crit based build. So crit damage is what we will be stacking for all our damage. So try and get that up to level 5 as soon as you can. I haven't got it yet because it's not one of your most important ones. You do have 6 other tripods that are more important, but this would be then the next most important after your main 6, so to say. Rhyme Arrow, Quick Prep, Piercing Strike, and Ice Pick, just damage and cooldown. Explosion, Ignite, Weak Point, and Final Strike. These two being the first 2 of your main 6 tripods that you want to max out. And then moving on to Punishing Strike, we use Wide Angle Attack, Electric Discharge, and Final Strike. These 2 being another 2 out of the 6 most important. And then Doomsday, Ignite, Asteroid, Final Strike. And these 2 over here being your last 2 out of your main 6 tripods that you want to max out first. And then Esoteric Reaction, we use Quick Pep, Final Strike again being most important after the main 6. And then Shockwave over there again. These 2 are pretty close. I've been playing around with Shockwave and I think it ends up being more damage, but I haven't really done too much testing with it. But yeah, Shockwave is what we are using for now, and get that leveled up as well. And then let's have a look at runes. I use Bleed on Blaze, and then for Augiesaint's Touch or whatever you end up putting there, I like to use Rage if you're using your counter or Augiesaint's Touch, because when you don't have to counter anything, or you know there's not a counter coming up and you do have a counter there, obviously like you should, you just use it off cooldown to get Rage to proc, just to give you more attack speed and move speed, because why not, you know, it's a free rune pretty much. And then moving on, Frostcall, Wealth. This you can really put whatever you want, but I believe this and Rhyme Arrow gives you like some of the highest meter gain. Obviously we are playing a Reflux Sorc, so you don't need meter gain at all. But if we have a look, yeah, what else are we going to put in there? Conviction, Judgment doesn't really work too well with this. Overwhelm, if you need more stagger, I guess you could put that in there, but I'd much rather put it on the stagger. On these are both mid, so again doesn't matter. Your highest stagger is your Punishing Strike, but you kind of want your Gale Wind on Punishing Strike. So if you want to put in your, where was it, Overwhelm, Frostcall, or Rhyme Arrow could be your option instead of Wealth. But if not, just keep the Wealth on there to give you meter gain to teleport around the map more. You know, it's freedom. You can put whatever you want there, though. Wealth is up to you. Frostcall, we're using Wealth, and then Explosion, we're using Purple Gale Wind, Punishing Strike, Purple Gale Wind, and Doomsday is our Legendary Gale Wind. And once we get our next Gale Wind at Legendary, I'll probably put it on Punishing Strike. And then ESO is Gale Wind as well, so probably put like a purple on there once we get the next level up. And that is it for skills and ruins and tripods. And what else do we have? Card set. Okay, so Light of Salvation, you want to use this as soon as you get 18 piece, because with my build, with your obviously at 80% crit, well, I think you could be a little bit higher if your quality is better, but I am at 60.7 crit and then 20% crit from Precise Dagger. So you're looking around 80% crit. My quality is not the greatest. I did this build a long time ago. I'm waiting for Ancient to like redo it completely with full qualities and good stuff. But the main point is you want to use Light of Salvation because 7% damage, obviously, when you are at 80% crit is pretty strong. And then if you're not at that, or you just don't have Light of Salvation 18 piece yet, then use your Lost Wound for the 7% crit, as that is also really important for the build. Crit is like what makes the build work. Crit damage, you know, or casty reflux. And then last but not least, we can go over the gear pieces. So I'm using Nightmare full 6-piece now. Before, in my previous video, I was using Dominion 2-piece with Nightmare 4-piece, but full Nightmare will scale better into the late game, especially now with much higher item levels. My weapon being plus 20 with massive quality on it, so that is massive damage there. And I have heard that Nightmare scales off the weapon damage or additional damage from the weapon or something really well. So that's why you definitely want to try and use the full Nightmare piece. In the beginning you can use Dominion 2-piece, because if you use the trick where you equip 2 accessories with Awakening level 5 on each of them, so you have Awakening level 2, just before you get into the fight, like when you're standing in the circle there, refilling your pots and things, you chuck on your 2 accessories, you hit your ultimate so it does your Awakening, and then you put back your other 2 accessories and you go into the fight. I know it's a lot of like trying to do that all, it's pain in the butt sometimes. But that will give you minimal downtime on your Awakening, your Dominion buff in the actual fight. It's like 15 to 20 seconds of downtime if you actually do that. But that's early on. Right now I'm using Nightmare 6-piece. You could even just use Nightmare 6-piece early on. Really doesn't matter. You don't have to like do all of that management. Just stick with your Nightmare. It gives you more damage overall in the long run. And yeah, that is all I can think of for the build. And stat wise, you want to go crit all the way with swiftness on your necklace over there. Crit swift on the neck. Try and get as much crit as you can, as crit is what makes us work. And that is all I can think of. So if you guys have any questions, if you have any arguments, comments, chuck them down below. I'd love to see them, hear them, answer you guys as best as I can. And hopefully you guys are enjoying your Sorc and enjoying my content. If you do, please drop a like and a sub on the channel. It helps me out so much. I'll catch you beautiful people in the next one. Augiesaint out.
Run free and dive into the sky. Hear the wind crying